Hello, today is Monday, September 26th, and we are at the home of Neil and Noreen Miller for the St. Matthew Parish History Project. Thank you for agreeing to participate, and with me today, who will be doing most of the interviewing, is Marilyn Krueger. So let's get started.
Okay, can you tell us about both of your family backgrounds, where your families come from, where you went to church, where you were baptized, where'd you go to school?
Well, I was born in 1947 and born and raised in Elgin, Nebraska, a humble town of 880 people, raised on a farm, second oldest of 10 children, and we were always busy. And Catholicism was very important in my family's life. All of us attended a Catholic school, which was 7 miles from our farm, St. Boniface Parish Church and School, from first grade through 12. Yeah. And how about you?
And also when you...
Well, I moved to Milwaukee in 1967, and in 1970 I married Neil, and we were married in St. Boniface Parish in Elgin, so that was pretty cool.
And then 78.
Okay, I'll just go on through. In 1978 we started our family. We had 4 children in 6 years, and we were very busy but excited, and all 4 of our children were baptized at St. Frederick's, which is where we were parishioners in Cudahy. And the 4 children's names are Nicole, Natalie, Nathan, and Narissa. And in 1982, we became parishioners at St. Matthew's. We were wanting to raise our children Catholic, and we felt because there was a school that the educational services were there, and Father Don Surgis was the pastor at the time when we attended initially.
Can I jump back for a second? What brought you to Milwaukee?
My loving husband.
So you met him in
Actually,
Nebraska?
I met him before I moved.
Okay.
On a blind date. So for me it was love at first sight. So it took me 3 years to convince her to move back to Milwaukee. And it was very, very moving time for us. Lots of heartaches, lots of good times.
We loved the airlines because we could fly back and forth to Omaha for, was it $50
Student rates,
student
round
standbys,
round trip.
$50 from O'Hare to Epley Airport in Omaha. So that was our saving grace. Neil was in college at the time, so he lived at home with his parents, so it was some trying times.
And I was born in 1945. I was number 5 out of 8 children, living along a very busy street, Kinnickinnick, in Bayview, Wisconsin, the city of Milwaukee. It's a suburb of Milwaukee. And Immaculate Conception grade school in Parish was just 1.5 blocks away. So the whole family went there, and went on from there to go to St. John's Cathedral in downtown Milwaukee, and graduated from there in '63, and then started UWM, University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and graduated from there in '72. So I worked in a factory at Fall Corporation for 3 years after high school. So then after graduated from there, I joined the military, and I flew commercially, and flew for Alice Chalmers Corporation and for the reserves in Milwaukee for total of 20 years in aviation at the military and 20 years at Federal Express. So that's why I was gone all the time. So my wife carried the ball for the family.
Were you in the 440th?
Yes.
How is it that you lived in Nebraska and he lived in Milwaukee? How did you two meet?
Blind date.
Where, but how?
How and where, yeah.
Well, we met, I came here with a girlfriend who had worked at the airline as a reservationist for North Central Airlines and was transferred back to Omaha. And it was summertime, and she said, would you like to come with me for a trip to Milwaukee? I've got a new Ford Falcon car and we're gonna take a road trip. And I said, sure, I've never been to Milwaukee. So I met
She
Neil.
was coming here because she was transferred, the other friend was transferred to Omaha
Happily.
and was dating a friend of mine, so she wanted to see my friend, so Noreen came along as a third person in
On
the
the-
relationship.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
my friend said, hey Neil, take her out, I want to spend some time with my girlfriend. And so that's when I met Noreen, and after that I was convinced.
Wow.
So it was,
3 years of dating.
yeah. Well, we had to. You didn't have any money. And I was working as a dental assistant for $1.25 an hour, around that amount. And when Neil went through pilot training, we were in Selma, Alabama, and I went to look for a job as a dental assistant. And talk about a rude awakening. Walked in to this clinic, and there was a door for the black and a door for the white, a separate bubbler for the whites and the blacks. Crossed the Pettit Bridge many days,
Every day.
because the base was off of
On the other side.
on the other side of Pettit Bridge. So it was a rude awakening to really see what was going on in the South. But I found out that I was not going to work for less than $1.25, and they didn't want me for that. Wages were really depressed, so I went back to start my college career, George Wallace Junior College, and started doing that for the year that we were down there. So it was a good time for me to start my education.
And then since then, she became a dental assistant, went from being a dental assistant to a graduate from Marquette University and became a hygienist and worked at Milwaukee Area Technical College as an instructor.
1979 Marquette.
Yes,
There you go.
1979.
Same year as me.
She knew all the ropes, didn't you, Mary? She saw my name in the alumni. I suppose that's when you knew it. Yeah. But it was a wonderful opportunity for me to get started with a career that, if I needed to work full time, but with 4 children, we had to make a decision who was going to parent our children. We wanted a large family, so it worked out. I was able to continue working in a large clinic in Cudahy for 30 years and continued my career at Quad Graphics part-time. So I was glad that I pursued that career and had a chance to work along with the family.
And we bought our 4-bedroom home 4 years before we had kids, and we had kids 4 years after we bought our home. So we were 8 years of marriage before we decided to start our family, and then it was a matter of, do we want toys or do we want kids? So that's where the 4 children came from.
All right, you said you joined the parish in 1982, so that's almost 40 years. Can you tell us about your beginnings at St. Matthew's? What's your earliest memory of the church? Do you have a favorite memory from those early years?
Well, let's see, we were
Okay, we became members in '82, and I guess the most important reason we switched was we were in Oak Creek. We had moved from Cudahy, and we had children at that point, and we wanted our children to have a Catholic education, and that prompted us to become parishioners. We took our children to Mass regularly, and it was just heartwarming to be able to have a 8th grade babysitting service downstairs. We always had a little one, so it was just nice to be able to take the little one down there and take the other 2 or 3 upstairs with us in the pew. So that was a godsend for us.
What was your family's involvement in the parish at that time? And how has it changed? Were you on any committees or worked in any specific area with the church or volunteered in any specific area?
I guess I'll answer that. I joined a group, well, it was something that it came from the Archdiocese. It was called Mathatai. And it was, the word means Greek, the Greek word means disciple. And it was the Institute of Discipleship in which 9 parishes assisted in opening up, encouraging and supporting the people as they re-examined their call to follow Jesus. And I met wonderful friends from St. Matthew's as well as other parishes, because we did rotate to different parishes to hear some speakers about, how do we follow Jesus? How do we continue our faith life? And that allowed me to meet a lot of our St. Matthew's parishioners like Ruth Shabilsky and Lynn Weiss, Margaret
Gossenhuber.
Let's see, who were some others? Alice Hetzenbeller, Chris Bodis, Shelley Swingle, Eileen Hobbs. There were just many others that were just wonderful Christian men and women that also joined.
And what did you enjoy most about these committees that you worked on, or this with the Mathatai program, or any others that you may have been involved with?
I think just because it was a relationship in which we had like minds, we were kind of on the same path with where we were wanting to go with religion.
How do you see the involvement of the laity in the parish having changed over the years?
I guess I wanted to add another thing that that you asked, and that was the annual church festivals were a very memorable time. Our whole family would always get involved in looking and seeing where we could be used and needed, and it was just a wonderful time. Dee and Bob Elk were in charge and headed it. It was wonderful, but as the years went on, they could not get enough people.
Volunteers.
So it did come to an end. That was kind of a sad time. It was hard working, but it was fun because we always did it as a family. There was one other program that I, for the life of me, can't remember what it was called, but it was in our early years of having joined St. Matthew's, where couples could sign up for Bible studies in the home.
At their homes.
At their homes.
Was it called Renew?
Yes, I think it was.
I remember that.
And there were 6 couples that we would go to various houses, and
To the one house.
well, we went to Dobrzynski's, who lived in our court, and you would go there. You see, it was on a Sunday night, but it was wonderful because we would have a theme from the Bible and we would discuss it. And it was another way of meeting new families from the parish, and then increased our faith life.
I'm sensing a theme with you, and a lot of it's about relationships with other parish members, and that is what made your faith
Grow.
Very much so.
I mean, after all, we are the church.
Well,
We are the people who make the church, and it was kind of explosive because as you got involved when you could, you would learn to love the people you were with, and you just, it was your home.
And your friends became your kids' friends' parents
Mm-hmm.
because you always interacted together.
Speaking of which, were you involved in the school at all when your kids were there?
Yes, and that's kind of where I think I was more busy in that at that point in my life because our children were all, with 4 of them in school, but there were a lot of things at school that I was involved in with field trips and Mardi Gras.
And you were also, lost my train.
Did you have leadership roles in any of these?
Not
You were
actually.
teaching.
I was
with the,
as a catechist. I
Catechist.
was in, but that was later on when our kids were going through the confirmation classes.
Okay.
I was a catechist for like 9 years, and I think it was like 9 through 11th grade.
You were Boy Scout.
I was a Cub Scout leader for about 5 years. And what else? I didn't get really involved in any long, like church council or things like that. I just didn't have the time.
Neil, did you have any specific things you were involved in, or were you
No,
just
because-
traveling all the time?
Because I was gone. I'd worked so many. I was 20 years with the 440th out of Milwaukee, so I was flying every minute that I wasn't flying with various corporations, and then finally FedEx. So I didn't I didn't leave FedEx until 87. I mean, I leave the 440th till 87 so for 20 years it was just, that's what put food on the table.
Mhm.
Well, being actively involved, how have you seen our laity change with their involvement in the parish over the last number of years?
Well, I think those people who want to be there are very involved. It has changed though, because we aren't as involved anymore because of, we've done a lot of traveling. We're gone quite a bit in the winter time. But I see the young people, a lot of young people getting involved. Most of them seem to be parents of the school.
Okay. Who do you think was the most influential person in your faith development at St. Matthew's? You've probably been there through a number of pastors, and is there someone that stands out in your mind as being most influential to you?
Well, prior to Father Pat, I think it'd be Father Sergius. He was the first. I mean, to us, he just seemed like he was warm and just nice to be around.
Welcoming, very welcoming.
It was sad when he passed, because but we've had Father Joe was wonderful, and Father Bill ran a tight ship. And now we've got Father Pat, who's just seems like he's making this parish blossom.
Especially with his involvement of wanting to be a part of the school. I think that has just brought the life back to St. Matthew's.
Now, you've kind of touched on this, but are there any significant events that really brought out the good in the history of our parish? You've talked about a number of things that you were involved in, and they all seem very positive, but is there any one idea that sticks out in your mind, or any thoughts that bring out the really good in our church?
Well, this was early on, but not so much now, but I loved the mission week that we had during the time when Alice Hadson-Miller was there. She really would get involved in that around Lent time, about every 5 years. I always found that very significant, and there was usually, it was a week-long ordeal whereby each evening there would be the speaker would come and speak on some spiritual aspect of our faith life. And I never missed an evening. Usually it was a Monday through Thursday and then a bigger event on Friday. We don't do that so much anymore, and I don't think maybe missions aren't as big anymore, once every 5 years, but it's usually just one night that mission becomes very significant if you want to attend. But that stood out in my memory.
I was gonna say, I remember one thing that Alice did about, I don't know if it was in Lent, when she had this thing in the cafeteria and,
Dance?
no, it was a meal related thing,
Yeah,
but not
yes,
everybody got to eat.
Right.
Was it the Setter meal or something?
Setter. That
Cedar-
was
that
it.
was
Setter.
Cedar
The
meal?
Seder
Cedar.
meal.
Cedar.
Not everyone got to eat
It was
because
like grilled
because
cheese and
it was supposed to demonstrate to you that what it was like around the world, that there wasn't enough food for everyone.
oh,
And you could share if you chose to share, but you know, that just really stood out to me. I know it's not about me, but
No,
you
she
mentioned
put a
Alice.
lot-
You mentioned Alice.
She put a
Yes.
lot into it. She
it was
was.
very well done.
she
one
was
year,
driven.
I remember. And she was our pastoral minister, and she worked hard.
Were there any other people who had personality traits that jumped out at you?
I just really found the staff and the teachers at the day school, Mrs. Lucier, Barber, Correll,
McDonald.
oh, Mr. Kane.
Mr. King.
Mr. Kane. My kids loved Mr. Kane. And especially Nicole, she had him as her 8th grade homeroom teacher, and she just blossomed. She did well academically anyway, but she just kind of came out of her shell and grew. I just respected all the teachers. They were very loyal and hardworking. What else? Underpaid, overworked.
We never saw their paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific memories or thoughts on things that happened during the parish during perhaps the Vietnam War, 9/11, COVID, those worldwide kind of situations? How was the parish impacted at that time?
Well, I remember the night of 9/11, we went to the Little Brick Church, and that was a very, very sad time. So that's why it was good to have a place to have people come together and just console each other, because we were brought to our knee, and it was a very hurtful time. But it was a wonderful get together, and now thinking back on it, it just kind of helped everybody refocus and move on with their life and never forget.
And I think COVID, everybody was impacted, including us, with not being able to attend Mass and receive Jesus. It was really hard.
Do you think it continues to be that way, or have we crawled out of there and are we
I'm
doing better?
Finished with it.
Yes,
I
we were finished with it before we were finished with it, but I think it's just a totally overreach, and it's unfortunate that we were put through the COVID program.
Well, with that in mind then, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the liturgy post-Vatican II?
I would go back to
Vatican
changing where the altar was.
mhm.
Moved it from the west side back to the center and south side, so that the people could see and be a part of
Of course, we
the
had to turn it
celebration.
around.
Right, part of the celebration, instead of always looking at the back of the priest's head during the service and changing it to English so that we could all understand it. Having girls be a part of the Mass, which all our kids were involved with that,
With
serving. So it's just,
being a Eucharistic minister and being able to be at the altar as a woman.
which
I
you
think
were.
that was a big ordeal.
Were you a Eucharistic minister then?
I mainly, during the whole time that the kids were going through the confirmation process, I was trying to be a good role model. And just getting involved in that, and I enjoyed being a catechist during that time too. I think it really strengthened my own faith. When you have to teach something, you really learn it twice, and it implanted so many spiritual ideas that were not always as strong as they should have been. But once you go through the process of teaching, it will be forever in my mind.
I hear you. I have that same experience with RCIA.
Yeah, you just implants it.
When you think about the future of our church, what gets you most excited? What are we looking forward to?
I think the most exciting part of St. Matthew's is the day school, because without children, you really won't have a parish for long at all. And they are the energy, and bring in the families and expose the world to the Catholic Church, and we need to keep that school going.
And I think they're doing a good job with that.
They're doing
Yes.
a fantastic job.
Yes. I just see the vibrancy of that day school. I mean, look what happened at St. Stephen's. The church was closed, or first the school was closed, and then the church was torn down, relocated. It seems like something is missing from that parish, because we did go there when it was on Howell and by the airport, and when the kids were in school. And there's just something about having children and the life of seeing them at church and hearing them cry. It's heartwarming.
What would you like to see remain the same at St. Matthew's, but what would you like to see change?
I don't think, just on an aside, I don't think that the parish could ever or want to get involved with building a church that would be separate from the school, because I think that would be a reach too far
You mean financially?
financially, because I don't think as much as we would, people would love to have that, the school has to stay open. And if you can't kill off one to do another. So I think the funding has to be there for the school, and then the church someday, maybe, but we've got to get a lot more people contributing to the funding, more parishioners putting in to the funds so that the church can grow, because we have enough people in our parish. We just don't have enough contributors.
Okay.
I think Father did say that only all the revenue that comes in is from 20% of the parishioners. And if that number goes down, it would be pretty hard to support a school and church, let alone building a new church.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we come to an end? Good
I
thoughts?
think you like the improvement of the fish boil layout.
Boy,
That's
that
gonna-
fish boil has just been, I I know I see the young people coming to that now also, instead of it just being senior guys doing the whole thing. When the other guys get off work, they come, they pick up the pace, so it's just so refreshing to know that it will go on even after some of us older guys aren't there or can't do it.
So that's something that you volunteer at too, is
Yes.
fish foil? Okay.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
we
with Joe and John.
I think we see a lot of that at St. Matt, just having the what was it called, the recognition or the cookout that we had that
The
Roland did.
picnic?
The picnic.
Oh, that
That
was
was
last week.
so well
We
attended, and
couldn't make
that was-
that. I'm sorry we couldn't make, because I've heard it's a lot of fun.
it was wonderful. They did a great
It's
job with that.
relaxing. I think it just was relaxing.
Yes, it was very nice. It was just,
Maybe not for Roland, but it was relaxing for the
definitely
rest
not
of
for
us.
him. No, he did a great job with that. So, I think those are the
Yes.
good signs at our church.
Yes.
Lots of people.
And
there.
they've brought a lot of those things into St. Matthew's, like Hospitality Sunday, involving events that we didn't have in the past,
Mhm.
where people feel that they can just come. They don't have, no strings attached.
Mhm.
And
I think our Holy Week is very awesome also. We do a lot of good things during Holy
Yes.
Week,
yes,
which we never did in the past.
yes,
Well,
The
and like-
fire outside.
And like the all school masses.
Yes.
And then
that
just
was
have,
something we wanted to.
we wanted to
mention.
mention that.
The day school, when our kids were in, we loved those all school masses. There was a theme by one grade, and they would have to prepare it, and that was really special.
And plan it and get all the things going.
And on the same night to have grandparent days, or have everybody is allocated a prayer partner.
Or that prayer partner.
We
is
followed
just
through with
great.
one gal. She graduated from 8th grade, and
Nicole.
yes.
And
Yeah.
Catholic Schools Week is always
Yes.
very.
I
Very
love
exciting.
those things. That's just the vibrancy of the parish.
And the Christmas
Pageants, the Christmas or Mardi Gras that the day school had.
That's
was
why I
always
say,
fun. There's so many
without
things.
kids, how would you generate
All that enthusiasm.
all that enthusiasm and that new life and that excitement? And
Mhm.
yeah, I just hope and pray we never lose the school.
The challenge though too is to keep those children involved as they grow.
Mhm.
Yes. I was impressed with the large amount of candidates for confirmation that were at church on Sunday. It was St. Mary's on the Lake and our kids. And there were a lot of teenagers there. It's just like, wow, that's so good to see. But yes, to let it continue,
Keep it going.
that's a challenge.
Well, did you have anything you'd like to add at the end?
No, just thank you very much. And
Thank you. That was great.
I love
Thank
this.
you. Great
I love this
interview.
concept, and the program sounds wonderful. That we're finally made it on film.
We're on TV.
Check the news at 6. Thank you
All right,
so much.
thank you.
Thank you.